Let's bring the conversation to the studio now. Earlier, we had in the studio Gbola Oba, a public affairs analyst. Welcome once again. We have joining us now Oladeinde, a public affairs analyst as well. Thank you for joining us on Decision 2023. I'd like for us to begin with reactions to the statement from our correspondents from Enugu as well as Kwara State. Enugu precisely, our correspondent was telling us both states have low turnout of voters as it stands. And one of the reasons from Enugu is that some persons were saying that their expectation from the presidential election, the outcome didn't turn out the way they wanted, and so that perhaps influenced the low turnout we are seeing. I wonder what your reaction is to that.
I'm not surprised because most of the youth that are canvassing for obedience, their most focus is on the Labour Party presidential candidate.
We could do without calling political parties for now. Yeah.
Okay, their most focus is for a particular candidate they believe in. And to me, they need to understand one thing, that beyond being the president of a nation, the state electoral is more important than even the president, because it is closer to the people than the president. Well, because their focus has been on certain presidential candidate that they are rooting for, so they are somehow disappointed when that candidate could not make it. So that's just the reason. That's the major reason, to the best of my understanding and knowledge, because I did my research very well. The turnout is not only in Enugu, it's general across the south, other part of Nigeria here. In Lagos, the turnout, even if I talk about the presidential election we are talking about, the turnout in the whole of federation is less than 30% or 35%. To me, it's still very low.
Yes.
If you're having,
compared to previous years, 2015, 2019.
If you're having over 90 million voters, and if you have about 93 million collected their PVC, and we are still having about 33 million people voted in all, to me, it's still very low. The awareness is not as expected. They should focus more on the state and the local government, which are closer to them than the president. That's my own opinion.
Let's get your perspective to this matter now, understanding the essence of the government being closer to the people. Our correspondent mentioned the matter of voter education. It seems that that is lacking, and that is why we are seeing what we are seeing in terms of the turnout of voters at this Governorship and State House of Assembly election.
I want us to be very careful not to be presumptuous at this juncture, because data management sometimes don't quite fit to the perception that people have about some. I would rather want to speak to the data rather than a reporter that goes to a polling unit, covers that polling unit for about 1 or 2 hours.
He compared it along side by side the presidential election, which he covered 3 weeks ago.
I still want us to be a bit reticent.
Right.
Using such information as gospel. That's number one. Number two, let's assume without conceding that that information is right. Speaking from Enugu, I shouldn't be surprised.
Right.
I was telling somebody about the disillusionment that some of us felt in 1983 when Chief Obafemi Awolowo lost the presidential election again in 1983. Now, because we were cocooned in the reality of Lagos and the Southwest, we thought it was the most popular presidential candidate in that ballot.
Right.
But you know what? Nigeria is bigger than your region.
Absolutely.
Nigeria is bigger than your region. And for anybody to emerge, look at the person who is now the president-elect has just recalibrated what we saw Alhaji Shehu Shagari do in 1979. In most places, he was coming second, but a very aggressive second. And so if you look at the true criteria he needed to meet, the criteria, in fact, I wouldn't know if the criterion of the principle of the spread was in the 1979 Constitution, but I want to believe that, it was borrowed from there. The two criteria were the total number of people who voted for him and the spread across the federation. Now, in the case, using the information and the opinion we got from your reporter in Enugu is quite ironic that on the one hand, people will feel that disillusioned. Now, because maybe the person they wanted to emerge as the president didn't quite emerge as the president. But ironically and paradoxically, like the two of you have rightly stated, the quality of what you will enjoy in any liberal democracy as a resident or a citizen is a function of how well the closest constituency of governance to you that you reside in is managed.
Absolutely.
And that is why even in America, in the last 20 years, some of us who follow, the political situation in America, we have noticed rabid partisanship in the American national politics. Partisanship that has even made the parties to be ideologically prostituting. Today you will see the Republican Party holding a position. Suddenly, in the next round of elections, you will see the Democratic Party now holding that position and the Republican Party that used to hold that position now switching places. But the quality of governance is still good in America because at the municipal level and at the state levels, people that they elect are far more concerned with the desires of the electors in those constituencies. So it is indeed a sad irony that if we are still turning out for election based on the fact that the previous, and that is one of the reasons why I am one who believes that it's about time we even brought all those elections. We just have 5 ballots to cast. It be brought to 1 for cost management.
Right.
That's one. 2 is that I am also one who believes that the level of functional illiteracy in Nigeria, if we thought that we have a higher level of literal illiteracy, even those of us who are supposedly educated, numerate and literate, the functional illiteracy will suffer. So I am not quite surprised that such a phenomenon, such an untoward, ugly phenomenon may be manifesting in the backdrop of the last round of elections that were held on the 25th of February.
Right. If we are to collapse the process into one, you said, yes, it will curb cost and all of it. How would that address this matter of disillusionment?
The same enthusiasm that propelled people out for the first round of elections would have settled the score. Would have settled the score. And the advantage would be, 1, reduction in cost. I'm also one who believes this morning I got a text message from INEC. And the reason why I was laughing was, you know what? If INEC knew that when one Gbola Oba registered as a prospective voter in Nigeria, when they issued me the permanent voter card, the PVC, if they knew that they had that much information about me on their database, and apart from having that much information about me on their database, they could send me
text message,
a direct
message.
What is then stopping INEC from allowing me to use the incontrovertibility of my biometrics in their database as either my source for accreditation instead of one paraphernalia of a PVC? What is even stopping? I do banking transaction on this phone.
Absolutely.
Why can I not vote and the percentage of engagement would have been higher. Why can I not vote with the same platform through which they communicated with me? You see, what that will do would be, apart from reduction in cost, will be all this suspicion of mischief, and because ironically, we have had one of the most historically revolutionary round of elections, and yet INEC is carrying the baggage and the liability of perception because it overpromised in the area of uploading on IREV,
yes,
and it underdelivered. Look at what happened.
But recall it said there were attacks. There were attacks on their systems. There were attacks on the systems.
That is speculative at this juncture. Until INEC comes out to say it themselves. We have heard that some persons in the Federal Executive Council spoke to the fact that some people came in to attack. But look, they are just responding.
Even before the election, they had mentioned that they were attacked.
They need a PR.
Let me say this, Mr. Gbola Oba. To me, I beg to differ on two issues you raised. Number one, collapse the voting
the process to one
day. Number two, on the issue of voting biometrically using our devices, how many Nigerians can operate devices in percentage? The level of illiteracy in Nigeria is still very high.
It will cut off the elderly.
The elderly, even the so-called youth, how many are using devices that can use their devices? How many? That is number one. You disenfranchise a lot of Nigeria in millions. Number two, we are talking of voter education. We still have two ways of voting: the national election one day, and the state election one day. But people are not well educated. In those days, 1979 and 1983, you vote for 5 weeks on a weekly basis. The president, the Senate, the House of Rep, the governor, and the House of Assembly. Then, if you're handling one ballot paper, it will be easier for the populace to be educated. You can educate them very easily. Oh, we are going to vote using this. You might want to vote for a particular party for president, and another party for Senate, another one for rep. If someone is an illiterate, it will be very difficult for you to differentiate. But if he's voting on a weekly basis, say the president this week, oh, I'm going to vote this type of symbol for president. He has made up his mind. You know where he's going to vote, where he's going to put his top print.
Shouldn't the education have come before the election period?
Let me
I'm coming. Are they not educating? I do not educating them now, but they still make mistake. I see a senator that voted in the last presidential election that still made a mistake because he showed it to the public. I would not mention
his thumbprint.
His thumbprint
crossed the line.
Crossed the line.
Right.
Suppose educated person. To me, to make it easier, Nigeria is not ripe for this electronic voting because how many of us? Okay, how many Nigerians
At
are
what
banking?
point will we be ripe for this electronic
Let me
voting?
quickly chip in. He has some very valid points.
Yeah.
Let me chip in this. You don't do your banking exclusively on your phone. You have the opportunity of walking into a bank, a branch of a bank. Apart from having the opportunity to walk into a branch of a bank, I know people, I have friends. They were street boys before they made money. They will tell you, Gbola, I don't believe this is your technology. I don't want to have anything with it. So all this internet banking and whatever, they will still write you a check and they must call him physically. It's also banking, you know.
Yeah.
Now, the point I'm trying to make with that point is that we now have the plethora of platforms that could be used for the same purpose. Apart from electronic, manual, if you want to be too tactile, like you said, you could even. But the idea of shutting down a nation of 200 million plus people twice every 4 years is a preposterous idea. Commercially, economically. We don't seem, some of us in Nigeria don't even seem to know the meaning of what is called contraction in economics. If we know, if the president of Nigeria knows, and the governor of the central bank knows, we shouldn't be having the madness that we're having now with Naira. Do we know the meaning of what is called a contraction in economics? Apart from that now, apart from the reality that is lacerating the economy as we speak, we still have a situation where you will shut down this economy twice.
Why I want to agree with you that we can use various medium to cast our vote. But when you take into consideration vote buying, it will be very easier.
Has anything changed?
It's a lot of change.
We still recorded vote buying.
We do,
in this
but
election,
not in large proportion,
right?
As it used to be. If you are using various medium, it is easier for me to bribe you to vote for me. But we are together.
But you just said
maybe
that,
at the comfort of your home, you want to vote.
But you just said that we are not yet ripe for electronic voting. Isn't
it
the same electronic voting that has curbed vote buying to the level that it has become?
No. You don't seem to get me. Why I say we are not ready for electronic voting is because of the level of illiteracy in Nigeria.
Okay, addressing the matter of illiteracy.
A lot of people need to be educated before they can know where and how to vote. Give them 3 or 4 ballot paper. Let's take, for example, there are some states in this country. Oh, they wanted to vote for a particular presidential candidate. Then the state belongs to opposition party. And because they wanted to vote for a presidential candidate, vote at this symbol. But you discover them voting continuously at the same symbol. That is lack of proper education. Then if you now use this various medium where you can vote from your home, from the comfort of your house, using your devices, it is easier for me to buy your vote because it's catch and carry now. Now you can still hide somehow at the polling unit. But at comfort of your home, I just come. You bargain. I pay you. You vote in my president. You vote in my president. A lot needs to be done to sanitize our voting and electoral system. A lot. We still need to move forward. A lot needs to be done. Nigeria can defy any means to beat any system. You know Nigeria for that.
Right.
We will defy any means. Because we want to cut costs, because we don't want to be locked down on twice every 4 years. Let us go at the comfort of our house. Some people are talking about BVN. Some are talking about NIN. This can still be manipulated.
There's no process that can be totally insulated from all of this process.
Let me respond to his valid point by saying this. The point is that some of us, in the last 15 to about 20 years, have been agitating and we've been seeing the positive results of introducing technology to our electioneering system. Michael Jackson used to vote in Ondo State. MC Hammer used to vote in Ondo State. Olusegun Obasanjo, candidate Olusegun Obasanjo in 2003, got more votes cast for him in Ogun State than the total number of voters registered in Ogun State.
Right.
Abi?
Yes.
It got to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court had to nullify the total number of votes cast in Ogun State. It was just that it did not vitiate the fact that he was re-elected. You know what? From the moment PVC and card readers were introduced, suddenly Michael Jackson decided to sleep eternal. MC Hammer just found a place for himself in America, far away from Ondo State, and there has never been any single polling unit in Nigeria.
That is improvement.
Any single polling unit in Nigeria that has registered 100% voter turnout since the introduction of technology. Even when the politicians, as desperate as they may be, I want to agree with my colleague here, as desperate as they may be and manipulative as they may be, even when they knew they were abusing the incidence form opportunity.
Yes.
And you know what? The cleanest in terms of turnout accreditation in the history of Nigeria, and I'm speaking from the First Republic, to the Second Republic, to the inquest Third Republic, to this extant Fourth Republic, the cleanest accreditation-wise has been this
very correct
round of elections.
Beavers.
Beavers.
It's a game changer.
Beavers is a technological contraption.
Exactly.
So I am sitting there now thinking, because we need to engage as many of our citizens, we have to make sure that the platforms are variegated and such that people can easily depend
at whatever level you find yourself.
At whatever level they find themselves, just like banking.
Yes.
If Yeleja, my late mother, was to be alive, any bank account, she would still have bank account, but she would probably not be able to read. She probably not be able to, but she will one day, out of maybe curiosity or whatever, walk into that bank, use her thumbprint as she used to use, Abi, and she will do a transaction. That is what we owe ourselves now. What is happening now is such that we will not totally eliminate the fear of my colleague, and that is the fear of vote buying. It's repeating itself from some of the reports we've had from some credible news organizations today. It's repeating itself, maybe relatively minimal, but it's
from
still
what we used to have.
And I have shocker for anybody watching me now, and I know so many Nigerians are watching us presently in the United States of America. I was watching a documentary in the state of Texas. How people held voters for sale. Like they're selling cattle.
It happens.
Because in any liberal democracy, people of influence, in fact, in 1872, what brought about secret ballot this thing was because the landlords were terrorizing and intimidating their tenants that if you didn't vote for me or vote for the people I told you to vote for, hasta la vista, baby,
So how do we even divide the main definition for vote buying? It's not about monetary alone.
It takes different
Do you know
forms.
it happens in America?
Even in the UK, when the election is coming, they will give you tax deduction.
Tax relief. If you see that 2020 election in the US, a lot of souvenir.
During COVID, Trump was actually sending food with his own picture into people's houses.
What do we call that? One thing we cannot do anywhere in the world to stop completely food buying, but we can reduce it.
Absolutely.
And what Bifas has done to Nigeria voting system is reduce it to the barest minimum. In those days, in 2019, you see 1.something million from a certain state, 2 million from another state. Even there was a time in Rivers State, 1.9 million voted. Out of 2 million, out of 3 million.
I was telling you, some of the kids that were delusional about the last election, I said, if it was in the past, outside the body of water in Ekwe,
we need to take a commercial break now. When we return, we'll bring you the news. Do stay with us. You're watching Decision 2023, our coverage of the governorship election as well as the State House of Assembly election. And we still have our guests in the studio, Kunle Oladeinde, a public affairs analyst, as well as Gbola Oba, public affairs analyst. Now, there's been a mixed bag of reaction, Kunle, to the election that's held today. We have seen reaction from the president-elect, who is positive with regards to the conduct of the election. He's commended INEC, so to speak.
The vice president-elect.
The vice president-elect, I beg your pardon. And then we've seen former vice president Atiku Abubakar, who has said that he is passing a vote of no confidence on INEC. And then we had one of the key contenders in the presidential election, speaking about Peter Obi, saying that it was a matter of he could neither place the conduct here nor there, but that he saw low voter turnout, and that he saw that he experienced vote buying, so to speak. Let's get your reaction to that.
My reaction is very simple. To me, we are not expecting something less. For every competition, the loser will always complain, while the winner will rejoice. The question we need to ask ourselves is, those that are complaining, what actually are they complaining about? You need to state very well, okay, these are the area where I think I will pass vote of no confidence on this election. You need to itemize it. You see that the BIFA is not working. It's about thuggery. It's about violence. For every election across the world, you can never get a perfect election, and you can never get the same reaction. It's either positive or negative. To me, everybody is entitled to their opinion. But to me, my own opinion is very simple on this election, likely very, very peaceful, for about 80 or 90%. Though there's a little problem here
Incidents
and
of violence.
Here and there. But to me, that is not enough to say the election is likely not peaceful, that they will pass vote of no confidence. Then do we need to blame INEC for lack of turnout of voters? It is not the responsibility of INEC to bring out voters from their various homes. So it is the responsibility of the political party to do that. So I don't have any issue about the election being peaceful or not peaceful, but to me, largely that election is the best election we have ever had in Nigeria since independence. This 2023 election is the best so far.
All right, let's get your reaction, Gbola.
The latest ugly face of electioneering in most liberal democracies is the industry of sour graping. As we speak, in the backdrop of the elections that took place in Brazil at the end of last year, you still have a sizable percentage of the Brazilian electorate believing that Lula did not win, because Lula barely won with about 1-point-something percentage of the votes cast. And some of them, especially in the backdrop of the damage that social media is endemicizing amongst the woman community, where people, when they constitute an echo chamber, speak to the lie that they want to believe at the expense of the reality of society. Such disposition is not surprising to some of us anymore. Let's be very honest with ourselves. Even in America, like my colleague rightly stated whilst we were on break, that even the American last presidential election, more than 2 years down the line, is still in contention. Trump would still say that he was robbed, even when we knew the person that was calling some states secretaries of state to help him tweak. Look, it's a common ugly phenomenon in liberal. However, having said that, we must speak to some facts
Quickly.
in this that are somewhat worthy of improvement. INEC needs to do something about the real-time upload of results at the polling units, number one. Number two,
Quickly.
the security scenario that presaged especially this second round of elections, particularly in Lagos. I was disturbed about 2 days ago as a Lagosian that somebody who openly made some remarks that were inimical to good order was not invited by the police.
Yeah, it was addressed. The matter was addressed.
Look, the best way to address such act of criminality, whether done with intention or without intention, would be An invitation, look, an invitation by the police is not an arrest.
All right.
It is just a form of deterrence.
We need to quickly move forward, but we must thank you, Kunle Oladeinde, Public Affairs Analyst, for your time.